Yesterday, Clutch delivered an upset that got fans roaring. We'll see if OPTIC Gaming can do the same as they aim to take down the number 3 seed in Counter Logic Gaming. BioFrost, MVP candidate, making his way to the stage not too long ago. We'll see how CLG performs in a playoffs berth. It's been quite a bit since they've been able to put something up in the postseason. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we hear from internet sensation Scott the PA and hear the history of one of North America's oldest organizations until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into Champion Select. Today, we've got Counter Logic Gaming facing off against OPTIC Gaming in the journey for the final spot in Detroit. Now, the winner looks to join the likes of Clutch, who once again took out TSM in their quest for the title. What? What? They've done it again, Mark. Unbelievable.
They didn't. They knocked them out of playoffs, so now they're 1-6 versus playoff teams, right?
Yes, the stat
record.
Yeah.
Who could have seen this coming? Nobody.
Nobody
saw it
have seen that
happening.
coming. It was a very impressive 3-1 victory for Clutch over TSM just yesterday.
Yeah, I think Clutch deserve a lot of credit. I think they were playing really well, especially as a team. There was so much synergy in their team fights. You know, people sectioning off different areas. In this clip right here, Huni lays down Equalizer. Then there's Lyra with the stolen Braum ultimate, pushing them all against the wall for Demonte to come in, clean up with the Kiana. And huge ults all game.
Just ignore the Sven tumble in there.
But Cody's son snagged player of the series.
Oh, there's a pentakill here.
While every member really on Clutch had their moments within the series, it did go to him, touting again a very impressive KDA. Did die just a couple times,
Died
so
twice.
unfortunately loses his deathless streak. But still, plays like that, the aggression in the late game carry for Clutch.
I mean, this was a synergy that you guys are talking about and how they use these ultimates to set each other up. It goes the Rumble and the Braum, and then at the very end, the Kai'Sa gets to come in and clean up, which is really cool to see because that's not what we saw out of them in the regular season. So clearly they leveled up.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting part is, like, did they level up or not? Was TSM underperforming? Did they overperform? Because a couple people predicted it. It was Crumbs and Freak.
Yeah.
But they were
Like, wait a second, I'm looking at
We
one
are
right
still
now.
lows to
They
admit
were
it, but-
underdogs coming in.
Yeah.
But then they actually, I think, proved that they were the better team.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if we replay this series, everyone is convinced Clutch still win. You know,
Right.
the majority
Which
of
means
those
they
matchups.
did not overperform.
Exactly.
All right, fair enough. When it comes to booking a ticket to Detroit, some players lock in the Zillion or the Karma to set up their teammates for success. But then there are the mid laners who rocket jump onto an Akali just to say, I'm helping. Brought to you by State Farm. In his first playoff win, Demonte uses Tristana's Buster Shot to give Bjergsen no room to move during a crucial mid-game fight.
Only at 1,000 HP, does make his way out of this one. Bjergsen burning the rest of the ultimate. But now Demonte wants into this one. The Shroud pushed them back into the squad. And that's the alley-oop they needed.
We're gonna win slowly here. We're gonna win slowly here. Or Dragon. I mean, damn the R. Damn the R.
Yeah.
They can.
Look here, look here.
Hey, Tanner's popping off. Got insane.
Oh, nice. Tanner, you're so sexy.
Oh, nice.
That was
Tanner.
so
Yeah.
close to dying, actually. I think Bjergsen could have almost
It
taken
was
that.
close. The pickup by the Skarner ultimate there right at
Yeah.
the end, too, was clutch.
I actually wanted to see Bjergsen's pro view of that because you know he's mashing the shuriken to try and take it
So you did the
back.
hand camp. Panicking.
You just see it blinking on screen.
Yeah, it was a pretty gutsy play there. It's been quite some time, though, since we've seen CLG in the postseason. So to put context into all of that, I want to send it over to Pastry Time for a quick history lesson.
Thanks, Dash. Counter Logic Gaming, a name as old as the league itself. While the name may now be ubiquitous within the league, the success hasn't always been the same as their longtime rivals, where TSM were the consistent, sometimes middling, but mostly unchanging entity. CLG struggled to find themselves, forced on a journey of self-discovery, adaptation, and willingness to find their own way. It's the summer of 2015 in Madison Square Garden, where CLG would find their first way against the ever-present TSM. After years of fighting in the LCS, they would finally be given their first title, vindicating its longtime players with a championship. Following their success, CLG would see their championship squad go through an unprecedented rebuild, but the team would not struggle with identity for long, as the second wave of CLG unexpectedly claimed victory again, lighting up Vegas alongside rookies Stixxay and Huhi, beating the former face of their org in the process. The high of a finals appearance in the 2016 mid-season invitational, however, would soon wear off. For years, CLG struggled to recapture their former magic, going through a revolving door of experimentation that led to only failure, consistently coming up short in delivering another lineup that CLG fans could feel was their team. Like a group of monks training high up in the mountainside, the search for the third way of CLG would turn up new questions for each answer they seemingly found, a never-ending search for something perhaps unattainable, trying to fix problems that it felt like they couldn't properly identify. Now, as the next phase of CLG enter playoffs, the squad in black and blue are poised for another shot at glory. The third way of CLG seems to have finally arrived. It's some part split pusher, some part aggressive early game, some scaling, some playmaking, something the fans already have pride in. Now, they're just waiting to see if their faith will give them another banner to believe in. Back to you, Dash.
Yeah.
You forgot the most important part of CLG's history, and he's sitting right there.
Where did it all begin?
Pre-LCS doesn't exist. There's no one.
All credit for CLG's success should be directed right here towards the center of the analyst desk. CLG has been such a storied organization, and I do recall that Madison Square Garden victory and how it really did kind of upset the status quo within the league at the time, really just being C9 and TSM to take the big wins. And so finally to have a third organization unseat them was a very cool and special experience.
I think it's still the highest voted Reddit thread of all time in the League of Legends subreddit. It's like 80,000 or something like that.
I like that. You may have noticed this fella over here on the far end of the desk. Jat has returned. Because before we get into our next quarterfinal, we do have another competition in mind as the four of us dive into some very important Jat stats. Take it away, my friend.
Okay, this one's pretty straightforward. The
highest
KDA in LCS playoff history. That player is in the series today. Who is that
So
player?
I feel like Meteos is the bait.
It's bait.
Is it a
bait,
single
right?
playoff series?
No, all time. Every playoff,
Meteos
every
is
player
the
who's
bait.
ever
I feel like
played in
it's
LCS
Biofrost.
playoffs, all of their games, what is their average KDA? The highest.
Biofrost was only in
On
good.
winning.
Is there a minimum
playoffs.
games to this? There's no
No.
minimum games.
In the series today,
It
though.
could be
I like the
Stixay.
bio.
It could be Stixay as well.
It could be.
I
I'm
feel
gonna go
like Stixay.
Biofrost.
I'm gonna go Bio. I like Bio.
I
Someone
like
else say
Biofrost
Stixay.
too.
Someone else say still.
Well,
I'm
when
keeping
Crumbs
it.
goes Stixay, then we know he'll be right, and the three of us will be
All
right.
right, hand the award.
Stixay.
Is Biofrost.
Suck it, Crumbs!
I didn't feel like I was going to be right. You're
You're like, oh, you should split your answers. No, that's the right answer. I'm not changing it.
All right, okay.
Yeah, Biofrost. He was on TSM all those times. He's won a bunch of playoff games.
Yeah.
And he hasn't even been on playoffs since he's been on CLG, so no way to take that KDA.
I did Bio because I know he's undefeated in best of 5 still.
There you go.
Yeah.
Meteos was the bait. I think he's like 4th highest all time
right.
or something. Second question is the most unique champions played this split 4 players in this series. So which player in this series has the most unique champion pool?
Is it Ruin or PoE?
Ruin did early on. Ruin for sure did early
He has
on.
11
But
played.
then
I
it got
believe.
relegated to just tons of cannons.
I think it's Crown.
And
I think it's Crown.
Crown has a fair amount, but he's done so much
Crown,
Azir
TF,
and
Corki,
Corki.
Azir.
I'll
but
take
he-
the
he buzzed-
Ruin one
so-
so that one
Yeah,
person
you
has
go
to
Ruin.
I'll
Crown
go
or
Ruin.
You're going
PoE.
Crown?
It's Crown or PoE.
I would go
I'll do like
PoE
a
then.
joint
I'd go PoE.
popsicle, both ends.
Okay.
So you did
Watch,
Crown
it's going to be Biofrost.
So Kobe, have
again.
you actually said an answer or just listened to other
Ruin.
people say it?
I'm going Ruin.
Okay, it is Ruin.
Yeah, okay.
Are you just listening to other people's guesses?
I'm
and walking
actually,
away?
I think I'm actually the winningest Jat Stats.
Wow, well, now
It's a Zale.
do you have
It's
any
a Zale.
evidence to support that?
I
even
got them
said
all
11.
last time, and I got them all this time.
I said 11. I said the number even.
Wow.
Okay,
Let's
final
see.
question,
Okay.
multiple choice. Which CLG player has the most kills per game
Me.
in CLG playoff history? Pobelter, Stixay, Doublelift, or Huhi?
Not who.
Most kills per game.
In CLG playoff history.
Playoff history.
I think
Pobelter-
it's Pobelter.
Pobelter has some
so,
insane
Yeah, because
ones.
remember in Madison Square, his Victor
Victor,
was
yeah.
popping off. I'm going Victor or Pobelter.
Yeah. It's per game, too. Yeah,
All right,
I'm gonna-
I trust the confidence.
I'm going
Stixay was
Pobelter.
really
That was said with
I'm
such
gonna
confidence.
say Stixay though.
All right,
Wow, okay,
Pobelter.
I'll go with Pobelter.
Oh, Mark's wrong. Everyone else is right. This is a funny one because Pobelter only played 6 games in all of CLG playoff history. Won all 6 of them.
And it was that summer.
That's
And
why I
that's
said. That's why I said said per game is
per
the,
game.
is the
That's
key
the
part.
trick.
There it
Yeah,
is.
otherwise
See,
it's
100%.
Well,
Well
has the most total kills.
You and Azale. You and Azale.
All right.
Yeah.
I like that. The takeaway, though, is that, well, Mark is wrong.
Mark is wrong. Everyone else is right. That's the most
I
important
just had to
thing.
do something different than the four. We can't all be unanimous ever.
Okay, fair enough.
That's
fair
true. We
enough.
have to have a loser.
We must. Thank you so much, Jat. The LCS recently announced that Detroit local Jax Anderson will be performing live at the finals opening ceremony. To learn more, check out the article at lolesports.com. All teams that win this weekend will compete in Detroit one way or another, so pick up your tickets for the summer finals, brought to you by Rocket Mortgage, and we'll see you at the Little Caesars Arena August 24th and 25th. We do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll dive into our quarterfinal matchup between CLG and OPTIC. Then later on, we hear from the new internet sensation PA Scott as he does a playoff breakdown.
Oh, sneak peek right
Don't
there.
you go anywhere. You will not want to miss it.
I thought you were supposed to
Look at that.
It feels really good for me that we were able to make it to playoffs because last split was the first time I ever missed playoffs. And so on a personal level, I wasn't really happy with that. It's disappointed in myself. And so I've really just been doing my best to help the team in any way that I can, whether it's just being a better jungler, trying to help out other people if they're struggling, also just trying to keep the atmosphere as good as I can. So I don't really take credit for us getting to playoffs. I think that everyone did a really good job.
Welcome back to the LCS Countdown, where game one of CLG versus OPTIC is gearing up in not too long. Just heard from Meteos on what it means for OPTIC to make their first postseason. For him, it's more of the status quo, right? Only missing it one time in his history. But for the rest of this squad and for the organization, we have to kind of recognize what it means to have just made it here first before actually competing in this best of five.
I think it's a lot different journey for Meteos too. Normally he joins a team, they're in playoffs, he helped carry them, woohoo. But this was a time where, he says like, I had to work on being a better teammate and helping elevate my team to get to this, playoff position because we did miss it last split, and you have to approach it differently because you failed once. And I think going through a failure can help people improve a lot more.
And it's super exciting for me because you've got a lot of veterans on this team. I mean, it's not just Meteos. You've got Crown, world champion. You've got Arrow, a veteran of the LCK. And then you've got Big and Dokla on their first playoffs as well. So helping out your other teammates is actually going to go a long ways to making sure that this team stays afloat.
Yeah, I really like the interviews on stage after they won. You could tell how much it really meant to them. Specifically, Big and Dokla up on the stage. Dokla said he just wanted to get back in to practice and play League of Legends immediately after finishing their best of five.
I love that.
Their games to play more because he wants to perform on that stage. And that's the inspirational stuff, that gives you excitement heading into a match like that.
Without a doubt. For more insight, though, on OPTIC Gaming, Coach Zabutin is looking beyond this quarterfinal match being just their first best of five.
After locking the playoff spot, we are very happy, but we know that the work's not done yet, right? It's just one step. So obviously it feels like a milestone for the team, but at the same time, we have more to show and we want to show up strong today. When you switch to BO5, you just need more stamina, and the game, one game as itself is not the whole result. While during the whole season, you fight for a BO1, just a point from the BO1. So I feel like it's more constructed win where you need to be not only good but as well consistent. But I think it didn't shift no training too much because we already play a lot of training scrim game no matter what.
Consistency, momentum, those are two of the big buzzwords that we use when we move into the best of fives, right? Because it isn't just about getting the first win and exiting the stage. You got to put three back-to-back.
Well, that plus the endurance thing that he was talking about. I know oftentimes for playoff teams switch from like 3 best-of-3 scrim blocks or something like that into 2 best-of-5s. And that even just in scrims, having been through that, that can be a pretty brutal process when you're getting hammered in scrims and you're playing out the full best-of-5 against an opponent. Like getting into that mindset of like that's what you're up for this weekend is really important as well.
It is really fulfilling for the players, though, talking to them, and Meteos kind of touched on it, right? Being in playoffs and doing a full best of 5, especially along with Crown, who is used to that style of play, will be kind of right at home.
Now, earlier we heard from Pastry on CLG's history in the LCS, but it's important to remember that OPTIC jungler Meteos has been to more than his fair share of LCS postseasons.
I mean, Meteos is one of our most storied players when it comes to being
Doesn't even look like
successful at playoffs.
I know, right? You remember that?
But So we get to see the 4 stages of Meteos beforehand. Actually, we could have counted 5 because there was a different look before that Cloud9 look, but he has always been a player that seems to find his way onto successful teams no matter what teammates there are.
Right? Does he find his way onto successful teams, or does he make the teams that he joins successful? That's one of the
I think
discussions.
it's pretty clearly the second one, in my opinion. The Phoenix 1 change,
it is the
OPTIC
second
Gaming at this point. I think he's done enough of a track record to show that he is the main component often in these teams.
Yeah, I mean, he's been playing for upwards of 6 years now. We've seen him grow up basically on stage and playing with his teams. Even with taking breaks in between, he still can come back and perform at this level. That is one of the most exciting and inspirational things there, because it's very hard for a lot of players once they stop playing to be able to come back and get to the same level.
I think adding to the excitement in this matchup is the All-Pro voting, right? Meteos was on our snub list of making the 4th team, the unawarded 4th team, whereas Wiggly did achieve All-Pro status for the first time in his career, and they'll be facing off today.
I mean, he's got a chance to really cement his position in the All-Pro team. If he can take down Wiggly or show him up, it's going to go a long ways in switching the perception that way, because Wiggly, while he had an amazing season, this is going to be his first playoffs. And this is a player that we know was very different in spring, and I worry that a playoff pressure match could actually throw a wrench in his gameplay and not be as consistent as CLG needs him.
Yeah, especially going up against Meteos, that is the concern. Wiggly was super proactive. He actually had the highest kills and assists at 15 of any jungler, and so he was really the linchpin to their early game. And Meteos, while less active around his team, a little bit lower jungle proximity, he was a lot better about being efficient with his clears. He was always up in gold and XP more so than Wiggly. And so if Wiggly is struggling to make things happen on the map, Meteos is going to be there to capitalize that on those gains.
Especially like talking to Meteos, he always has a very good plan for all of the early stages of the game. You know, if this happens, then I'm going to do this, right? This response is what is going to come next. And that's why he is so efficient with his time. He doesn't waste a lot of time deciding between those different options.
Yeah, and so often we talk about consistency, and I think that that's been one of the bright spots for CLG as an entire squad throughout the summer split, is that they've just more consistently performed. And on the side of OPTIC, where we sometimes see that inconsistency does come from the mid lane in Crown.
He's been a big part of their success, but he's also had some games where he really kind of throws the game. He's had 0-6 0 performances, some bad Zoe ones. He has struggled because he's been asked to do more. He's been stepping up. He's been doing a lot better on hard carry performances, but it has come at the cost of some of the loss of consistency that we associate with Crown. Whereas in the meantime, Power of Evil has been the same rock he's always been. When you look at deaths, Crown is second amongst mid laners at 43. PoE, that's most deaths. PoE is last. He's got the least deaths at 27. And so that's really the concern with these two guys, where Crown has stepped up to be a harder carry threat in himself, but it does lead to him making some riskier decisions where he has gotten punished this split.
And that, to me, is the actual story of this game, in that you have one player that we can look at for OPTIC being an X factor in Crown, but I think the reality of it is that you have 3. You really have 3 players on OPTIC, and then there's
the whole team.
The whole thing can go either go all the way or just capsize right before anything even happens, because we don't know what to expect from Dokla. We don't know what to expect out of Crown. And then in the bottom lane, I think Big is one of the players that has been in the most game-winning and game-losing situations for the team. Then you account into the fact that they basically threw away the draft a few weeks ago with the Aatrox forgetfulness, if you will. And now I'm really worried when CLG has been nothing but consistent all season long, except for the last few weeks that are a little bit troubling. Losing that game against the Thieves was a really bad sign, especially because the draft was sus as well.
Yeah, I think that's why we have such a big spotlight on the junglers, and we're going to be tracking where they go early, because Wiggly has been so good in the first 15 minutes for CLG. And is he going to go up and try and camp Dokla? Is he going to go try and take advantage of the bottom lane? Those are where those X factors really have to step up for OPTIC.
I do want to explore the bot lane, as you mentioned there, because for CLG, once again, second team, both Stixxay and Biofrost next to each other. Biofrost is in that race for possible MVP award as well. And then, of course, you look on the other side, and yes, you mentioned how Big can be an X factor, win or lose you the game. But him alongside Arrow, they had stepped up in the waning weeks of the regular split.
I mean, that's a lot, like from saying, a lot of the stories. This is the second all-pro team bot lane for CLG going up against OPTIC bot lane, who has been doing better than they were in the past, but they should still not perform as well as CLG's bot lane. That's how a lot of it feels, but a lot of OPTIC players were so close to breaking into those all-team ballots.
And Biofrost himself, when we had him on the cooldown, talked about the OPTIC bottom lane being underrated.
Oh, yes, he did.
And
You're right.
dominating in scrims. And we've even seen it on the LCS stage. They get 2v2 kills in lanes. They had the Draven Leona one. They absolutely steamrolled on bomb. So, like, it can't happen, like you're saying, for OPTIC. And they're giving a lot of respect to their opponent.
But I think we're really lucky in that they played last week, just OPTIC against CLG, and that matchup was super telling because CLG just blew it wide open from the bottom lane. It was abusing big that gave so many advantages, and then the game kind of devolved into both teams just running around like headless chickens, but CLG had more dragons, so they ended up winning the game because of their fundamentals being way more sound than what OPTIC had.
No doubt CLG is the expected victor in this best of 5, but ahead of the first best of 5 on CLG, Weldon talked about what CLG did in the wake of their tiebreaker loss.
We took a day off and everybody kind of like separated and we came back Tuesday morning to review. And I think that we got all our apologies in for the mistakes that we made. And I think it's really more scrims leading up to the weekend that kind of set the tone for the weekend. And we had a good week of training. So we're pretty confident in what we learned Saturday in our losses and then also what we trained this week preparing for the OPTIC match. Well, there's going to be 2 parts to this advice. When I walk off stage, I think the last thing I'm going to impart to them is that I want them to feel the pressure today and not let that dissuade them from making the play, clutching for the team, doing the all-in. And that's kind of both for their own satisfaction, their own development, and also looking into possible like semifinals and finals. If we actually are victorious today, we need to play under more and more high stakes. And so anytime you're in an elimination match, you have an opportunity to practice playing under pressure. And I really want them to not avoid that pressure and to just accept it and embrace it and make it fire them up.
Taking that moment to acknowledge mistakes from the regular season, then putting that behind you and embracing the pressure of the playoffs. Again, something we've talked about for young players can usually be the obstacle that prevents them from getting to a title. Weldon says dive right into it and allow that pressure to drive you towards making the plays.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have different views on high pressure situations like that. I love getting excited for these playoffs, when you get to go up on stage and make one.
I love it. I love it. All right, well, with all these points fresh in our minds, let's go ahead and hear your predictions for the day. We're going to go right down the line. Skara will be joining us following the first game to break things down. So his prediction, you'll see it here. What was that? CLG.
His arch nemesis.
Why don't we give numbers? What happened to the number scores?
You gotta say it.
Out.
Here.
We
use
need
your
physical
voice.
evidence.
Respect our audience. They listen to us.
Come on, we gotta
Give me your numbers, Scrum.
I'm going CLG 3-2.
All right, CLG 3-2.
Yeah,
so we got a long series on our hands.
It's a 3-2. That doesn't show up.
Kobe, what do you got for me?
I'm going CLG 3-2 as well.
Wow,
I think
full
it is going to be
games.
very close, but CLG's consistency that we have already touched on is going to win it out. Mark doesn't think that they're going to win games.
Convinced. What do you
I
got?
said 3-0. What is this?
Whoa!
It's a close game. It's not close. CLG in a playoff situation are so much better around objective control, and oftentimes playoff games play slower.
We've never seen OPTIC in playoffs. We don't know.
The X Factor.
I'm saying over the course of the season, CLG is better. I'm saying over
right.
the course of the season, CLG has much better objective control.
Well, it's a sweep here on the desk for CLG, although a couple people think it will be a close series. We have heard your demands, though, at home, and now I am happy to oblige as we bring back PA's Corner with internet sensation Scott. So take it away.
Thank you, Dash. I'm back, and thanks to much love from the producers and from all of you, here's my segment, PA's Corner. Now,
All right. Sorry about this. We got to cut you off here, Scott. We're about to jump into Champion Select, and Champion Select waits for no man. Now, we've got our next quarterfinal match here ready to go. My name is Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns, and I am joined by 2 of my favorite boys to have on the desk right next to me here, Mr. Joshua Jat Leesman and Isaac Azael Cummings Bentley. Scott, you will be remembered, my friend. We will see you on the other side, but for now, we got a series ahead of us, boys.
Yeah, it's playoffs. Obviously, it's too important. We have to get to it right away. Can't wait for